You always find a way to make it about you, my mother said, loud enough that the people at the next table paused mid-laugh. I didn't answer. I didn't even look at her. I kept my hands folded in my lap the way I'd trained myself to do when the room started tilting. Patricia Hale's smile was polished, practiced something she wore like jewelry, but her eyes weren't smiling. Her eyes were sharp, impatient, already collecting witnesses. Across from her, my sister Savannah angled her phone slightly. Not filming yet. Just ready. My brother Jonathan drummed 2 fingers on the tablecloth like he owned time itself. "Say something," Savannah murmured, her voice sweet in the way sugar can hide poison. "You're sitting there like you're the victim." Jonathan leaned in, close enough that I could smell the mint on his breath. "Don't do that," he said. "Don't go quiet. It makes Mom look bad." I finally lifted my gaze. I'm not trying to make anyone look bad. My mother's laugh was short and humorless. "Oh, Audrey, you don't have to try." The server returned with coffee, and Patricia accepted the carafe with a nod like she was receiving an award. Savannah's eyes flicked to it, then to me, then away, as if she'd just been handed a script she couldn't wait to perform. Jonathan shifted closer. "We need to talk," he said, lowering his voice, but not enough. Nothing in our family ever stayed private for long. "I'm listening," I said. He swallowed like he'd rehearsed this in his head 100 times and still didn't like how it tasted. "I need a bridge. Just a short-term thing. Inventory is tight. The vendor's pushing me." My mother's eyes stayed on her coffee cup, but I felt her attention sharpen. Savannah leaned back, crossing her arms. "Here we go." Jonathan continued. "I need you to put it on your card. You have good credit. You always have." I blinked once. How much he said it quickly, like speed could make it smaller. $68,000. The air around the table changed, not because of what he asked, because of how normal it was for him to ask it. I held his gaze. No, it was a simple word. Calm. Clean. No heat in it. Jonathan's face tightened. "Audrey, it's not a gift. It's temporary. It's debt," I said, "in my name." My mother set her cup down softly, the porcelain click precise. "Your brother is building something," she said, still in that polite tone she used in public. "A family business. He's trying." Savannah tilted her head. "And you're always..." "What above it?" I didn't look at Savannah. I looked at Jonathan. "If you need a loan, go to a bank." His mouth twisted. "Banks don't move fast. They don't understand the market. This is family." "That's exactly why I'm saying no," I said. Jonathan's eyes flashed. "You live like you're barely surviving. You show up in the same old boots, the same plain jacket, acting like you can't afford anything. And now you're telling me you can't help? I didn't say I can't." I said I won't." Savannah's phone lifted a little higher. "Oh, wow," she whispered, for the benefit of anyone listening. "Did you hear that?" My mother's smile stretched thin. "Audrey," she said, warning threaded into the syllables. "You will not embarrass your brother. I'm not embarrassing him." I said, "I'm setting a boundary." That did it. The word boundary hit my mother like an insult. Her chair scraped back. She stood so fast the table trembled, heads turned. A few people pretended not to watch and failed. "You think you can sit here," Patricia said, voice rising, "and judge us like you're better than everyone else." I stayed seated. My pulse was loud in my ears, but my voice didn't shake. "I'm not judging anyone." "Yes, you are," she snapped. "You come to brunch like a stray we let in out of pity, and you stare at us like we're the problem." Jonathan's jaw worked as if he wanted to stop her, but he didn't. Savannah's eyes were bright. She wanted this. She wanted the spectacle. Patricia reached for the coffee carafe. I saw it happen in slow, unbearable clarity, her fingers curling around the handle, the tilt of her wrist. The way Savannah's camera rose fully now, red light blinking. "Watch this," my mother said, and her voice sounded almost delighted. "This is how we treat trash." The first wave hit my scalp. Scorching. Heat poured down my hairline, slid behind my ear, soaked into my collar. My breath vanished. Pain burst across my skin like a slap that didn't end. And then the sound came. Not horror. Laughter. Savannah laughed like she'd been waiting her whole life for this moment. Jonathan let out a shocked bark that turned into a grin he couldn't quite hide. The terrace wasn't quiet anymore. People murmured. Someone gasped. Someone muttered, "Oh my God." And still nobody moved. If you're listening right now, tell me where you are and what time it is for you. Just drop it in the comments. I want to know how far this moment travels. How many people recognize the way a family can turn a table into a courtroom? The entire content of the video is a fictional work created by the writing team of the Family Afterlight channel, intended to reflect common conflicts in families and society, helping viewers recognize their emotions and choose a more positive way of living. My hands were clenched so hard my nails bit into my palms. Patricia set the empty carafe down with a sharp, triumphant motion. Coffee dripped from my lashes onto the tablecloth. "There," she said, breathing fast. "Now you remember your place." Savannah kept filming, her smile wide. "Hold still," she murmured. "This is perfect." Jonathan leaned forward, his voice low, urgent. "Audrey, say something. You're making it weird." I lifted my chin, slow and steady, and met my mother's eyes. I didn't give her a scream. I didn't give Savannah a tear. I stood. The chair legs scraped the tile, loud in the silence that finally arrived too late. Patricia's expression flickered confusion first, then anger, because she couldn't tell what I was. "Sit down," she hissed. I didn't. I turned and walked away, coffee soaking through my clothes, my skin burning, Savannah's camera tracking my back as if she owned it. Behind me, my mother's voice rose again sharp, frantic, furious. "Audrey Hale," she shouted, "do not walk away from me." I locked the restroom door behind me and leaned both hands against the sink. The mirror showed me exactly what I expected and still wasn't ready for. My hair was plastered to my scalp. Coffee streaked down my neck, already turning my skin an angry red. Just behind my left ear, the burn had begun to swell. My hands were shaking. I turned on the cold water and held my wrists under it until the sting cut through the fog in my head. I wanted to scream. The urge sat heavy in my chest, a sound pushing upward, demanding release. If I screamed, they would have it. If I cried, Savannah would zoom in. I shut the faucet off and stared at my reflection again. My eyes weren't watery. They were flat, focused. That unsettled me more than the pain. The door rattled. "Audrey," Jonathan said from the other side, his voice suddenly careful. "Open up. Mom didn't mean it like that." I laughed once, sharp and humorless. How did she mean it? Jonathan's silence. Then, "You pushed her." I straightened. "By saying no." "You know how she is," he said. "You know what happens when you embarrass her." "So this is my fault," I said. "For not paying $68,000 to keep her calm." He exhaled loudly. "Don't say it like that." Like the truth Savannah knocked next. Lighter, almost playful. "Audrey, come on, you're ruining brunch." I closed my eyes. "I think that happened already." She sighed dramatically. "Everyone's staring. Just come out and say you're sorry. We can delete the video." That was the first time anyone admitted it existed. "Delete it," I said quietly. Savannah hesitated. "Well, maybe after things cool down." I pressed my forehead against the cool mirror. The pain pulsed, steady and sharp, like a countdown. "I'm not apologizing," I said. And I'm not coming back out to perform damage control. Jonathan's voice dropped. If you walk out like this, don't expect things to be the same. I opened the door. They both stepped back. Coffee dripped from my hair onto the tile between us. Savannah's phone was already up again. Jonathan's face shifted when he saw the burn. Real this time. Undeniable. Turn it off, I said. Savannah didn't. That was the moment something inside me locked into place. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't beg. I stepped past them, my shoulder brushing Jonathan's arm. I am done reacting, I said, more to myself than to them. You don't get that part of me anymore. Behind me. Savannah scoffed. Wow! So dramatic. I kept walking. Each step away from that door felt heavier, but also clearer. The silence I carried with me wasn't weakness. It was the first thing I'd chosen for myself. The table went still when I returned. Conversations nearby dipped, then pretended not to. Patricia was standing now, arms crossed tight against her chest. Her smile gone. Savannah lowered her phone just enough to make it look accidental. Jonathan watched me like he was bracing for impact. I didn't sit. I'm not done with you, my mother said, her voice low and sharp. You don't get to storm off and play the martyr. I reached into my bag with steady hands and pulled out my wallet. The leather was damp where the coffee had soaked through my jacket. I slid out the bills one by one and laid them on the table. $96. I smoothed them flat beside the empty coffee carafe. That's my share, I said. Jonathan blinked. For what? For the meal I didn't eat. I replied. And the scene I won't participate in? Savannah scoffed. Wow. You really think that fixes anything? It's not meant to, I said. Patricia's face flushed. You are humiliating this family. No, I said, meeting her eyes. I'm paying what I owe. Jonathan leaned forward. You're seriously walking away over this. I nodded once. I already did. Savannah laughed, sharp and performative. Go cry in your car. That's what you always do. I picked up my bag and turned toward the exit. Patricia took a step after me. If you leave like this, don't expect to be welcomed back. I paused just long enough to answer. I'm not asking to be. Behind me. Jonathan muttered something I didn't catch. Savannah's chair scraped back. Someone at the next table whispered my name like it was gossip. I didn't look. I walked past the servers, past the white tablecloths and unfinished drinks, past the version of myself they had decided I was. Outside, the sun hit my face. Too bright. Too normal. My hands trembled as I reached for my keys, not from fear, but from the sudden release of holding myself together. I didn't run. I didn't look back. I left my silence behind like a door closing, solid and final. The drive north was quiet in a way my family never allowed. My phone buzzed once on the passenger seat, then again. I ignored it until the screen went dark, letting the silence stretch. My scalp throbbed in time with my heartbeat, a sharp reminder that what happened wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a decision they'd made without hesitation. At a stoplight, my phone lit up again. Jonathan's name. I answered this time. You didn't have to humiliate Mom like that, he said, skipping any pretense. People were staring. I was sitting there when she burned me. I replied. People were staring then, too. He sighed, the sound thick with frustration. You know how she gets. You could have just helped me. $68,000 isn't that much. I laughed softly. It is when it's not yours. You act like we're asking you to save the world, he snapped. You live in the middle of nowhere. Audrey, you don't have kids. You don't have obligations. What else are you doing with your money? There it was, the assumption they'd built their cruelty on. I'm choosing not to give it to you. I said. Jonathan's voice hardened. Because you want us to beg no? I said, because I don't need your approval anymore. He hung up without another word. The light turned green. I drove. 3 weeks earlier, I'd sat in a glass conference room with my legal team and signed the final documents. The acquisition had gone through faster than anyone expected. $92 million, structured clean, with an earnout I didn't even plan to touch. When the last signature dried, my attorney smiled and said, "Congratulations. Audrey, you're officially done." Done didn't feel loud. It felt like relief. I hadn't told my family. Not because I was hiding, because I knew exactly what it would turn into. Requests dressed as pride, control disguised as concern, entitlement wrapped in the word family. I lived simply because I wanted to, because after years of watching people measure worth in appearances, I wanted a life that couldn't be leveraged against me. They mistook restraint for lack. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Savannah. "You're trending," she said, the excitement in her voice barely concealed. "The video's getting attention. You look intense. Take it down," I said. She laughed. "Why would I do that? People love it. You should lean into it." I pictured her watching the numbers climb, mistaking visibility for power. "I'm not playing this game," I said. Her tone sharpened. "Then you shouldn't be surprised when you lose." The call ended. I pulled onto the highway, the city falling behind me mile by mile. The pain in my scalp faded into something duller, manageable. What stayed sharp was the clarity. They didn't hate me because I said no. They hated me because I could say it without fear, and they were about to learn what that really meant. The nurse didn't ask why it happened. She asked when. "About an hour ago," I said, sitting still while she parted my hair with gloved fingers. "Hot coffee." Her mouth tightened. "On purpose." "Yes." She nodded once and kept working. The room smelled faintly of antiseptic and something burned, a sharp, unpleasant reminder of why I was there. A physician stepped in a moment later. He introduced himself quickly, efficiently, then leaned close to examine the swelling behind my ear. "This will blister," he said. "Second degree. You're lucky it wasn't worse." Lucky. The word landed wrong, but I didn't correct him. He documented everything: location, temperature, cause. His pen scratched steadily, indifferent to family names or brunches by the ocean. "Do you want this recorded as an assault?" he asked. "Yes," I said without hesitation. The police officer arrived while I was still holding an ice pack to my neck. He was younger than I expected, his posture careful, professional. "I'm here to take a statement," he said. "You can stop any time." "I won't," I replied. I told him exactly what happened, who poured the coffee, who filmed it, who laughed. I didn't soften it. I didn't dramatize it. I watched his expression change as the details stacked into something undeniable. When I finished, he nodded. "We'll file this as an assault report. There may be follow-up." "That's fine," I said. "Back home." I showered slowly, carefully, letting the water run lukewarm over my shoulders. I avoided my scalp. The mirror afterward showed a red, angry line along my hairline that makeup couldn't hide even if I wanted it to. My phone buzzed. Savannah had posted the video. The caption was cruel and playful all at once. A joke designed to make pain look deserved. The comments came fast. Laughter. Insults. Applause. I watched the video once. Just once. Then I took screenshots. The clip. The caption. The timestamps. The account names. I saved them in a folder labeled Simply. Record. Jonathan texted next. "You're blowing this out of proportion." I didn't respond. I made tea instead. My hands steady now, the steam fogging the kitchen window. I sat down, phone face down on the table, and waited. Not for an apology, for the truth to find its way into the light. The first day, nothing happened. The video stayed where Savannah wanted it, inside a tight circle of people who already believed I deserved what happened. The comments were loud, confident, cruel in familiar ways. I didn't respond. I didn't defend myself. I went to work, answered emails, reviewed documents, and let the burn on my scalp remind me why I was doing none of those things publicly. The second day, my phone rang while I was on a call with my attorney. I muted the line and answered. "Audrey, this is Maya Collins," the voice said. "We met once at a conference in Palo Alto. I'm a journalist." I closed my eyes briefly. "I remember. There's a video circulating," she continued, careful but direct. "Someone sent it to me last night. Before I publish anything, I need to ask, were you assaulted?" "Yes," I said. "There's a police report." She paused. "And the woman in the video is your mother?" "Yes. Your sister filmed it." "Yes." Silence stretched between us, heavier than the noise ever was. "I'm going to verify everything," Maya said finally. "But if this checks out, the context matters. It always does." I replied. I went back to my attorney. "We're done for today." I told him. Something's shifting. By that evening, my phone wouldn't stop vibrating. A former colleague texted first. "Saw something weird online. Is that you?" Then another, and another. The third day, the story broke containment. It wasn't Savannah's followers anymore. It was people who recognized my face from places I never expected to intersect with my family. Conference clips, panel photos, an old article about my company's early days. A side-by-side image appeared on my screen. On the left, a photo of me speaking at a tech summit. On the right, a still from the video my head bowed, coffee dripping from my hair. The caption read, "This woman was assaulted by her family after refusing to loan $68,000. The comments changed tone. "This is abuse. That's not a joke. Why is no one stopping her?" My phone rang again. This time, it was Elena, my head of communications. "You didn't tell me this existed," she said, not accusing, just focused. "I didn't know it would matter." I replied, "It matters now." Elena said, "It's everywhere. We can request takedowns. Harassment policies? It'll be gone fast." "No," I said. She hesitated. "Audrey, this is humiliating." "It's not humiliating for me," I said. "It's clarifying." On another screen, Savannah's account went quiet. Jonathan's dealership page turned its comments off. Patricia's name began appearing in threads she had no control over. Elena exhaled slowly. "If we leave it up, the story won't stay where you want it." "I know," I said. "Let it go where it needs to." By the fourth day, the narrative had flipped completely. People weren't laughing anymore. They were asking questions, the kind that don't disappear when you log out. Elena's voice softened. "Are you okay?" I looked at the folder on my desktop, the screenshots, the medical report, the police case number. "I am," I said. I just stopped trying to be understood by the wrong people. Outside my office window, the light shifted, steady and indifferent. I turned back to my screen and watched the truth do what I'd trusted it to do. It moved. Elena called just after 9 the next morning. "It's moving into corporate territory now," she said. "People are tagging brands, employers, boards." I leaned back in my chair, phone pressed to my ear. I assumed they would. "There's something else," she continued. "Do you want to hear it before it becomes public?" "Yes." She lowered her voice. Jonathan's employer reached out, not to us directly, to the holding company. I didn't respond right away. "Elena," I said carefully, "we didn't buy anything this week." "I know," she replied. "That's why this matters." An hour later, my general counsel looped me into a call. 3 faces appeared on the screen: a regional director, a human resources executive, and a 4th window, dark, labeled ownership. The director spoke first. "Thank you for joining us. Audrey." I didn't turn my camera on. "I'm listening." "We've received a significant volume of complaints," he said. Regarding an employee named Jonathan Hale, the video circulating online is disturbing. It documents an assault, I said, filed and recorded. The human resources executive nodded. We have reviewed the footage. We've also reviewed our code of conduct and morals clause. She paused. Mr. Hale is in violation. The director cleared his throat. Effective immediately. His employment is terminated. Silence filled the call. Jonathan's voice broke through, sharp and panicked. You can't do this. This is a family thing. It has nothing to do with work. I unmuted my microphone. It became work the moment you filmed it. I said. He froze. Audrey, you didn't lose your job because I'm successful. I continued. You lost it because you thought cruelty was content. The director shifted uncomfortably. Security will escort you out. Please leave company property behind. Jonathan's breathing grew audible. You planned this, he said, anger bleeding into desperation. You set me up. No, I replied. I stepped out of your way. You did the rest. The human resources executive glanced at the dark ownership window, then back at Jonathan. This decision is final. Jonathan's screen went black. The call ended without ceremony. Elena exhaled on the other end of the line. Are you okay? Yes, I said. I just don't feel guilty. She didn't challenge that. Later that afternoon, my phone buzzed with a text from Savannah. You destroyed him. I typed back slowly. You filmed it. A moment passed. Then another message appeared. Mom is losing it. She says you always wanted this. I stared at the words until they blurred, then locked my phone and set it aside. For the first time, the power dynamic had shifted completely. Not because I raised my voice, not because I exposed anything new, but because the system they relied on to protect them had finally seen them clearly. And it had stepped away. The security alert went off just after dusk. I was standing in the kitchen when my phone vibrated twice in quick succession. The notification was short. Motion detected at the gate. I opened the camera feed. Patricia's car sat crooked in front of the entrance, engine still running. Jonathan paced behind it, his movements sharp and restless. Savannah stood off to the side, phone in hand, already recording. Patricia leaned into the call box and pressed the button hard enough to make it squeal. Open the gate, she shouted. This is ridiculous. I didn't answer. Jonathan kicked the metal frame, the sound cracking through the speaker. You can't hide forever, he yelled. You owe me my job. I pressed the intercom button. You are trespassing, I said. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. You need to leave. Patricia's face twisted on the screen. How dare you talk to me like that? I am your mother. No, I replied. You're someone who assaulted me. Savannah laughed, sharp and brittle. Wow! Listen to her. She thinks she's untouchable now. Patricia leaned closer to the camera. You let us think you were nothing, she said. You embarrassed us. You owe us compensation. I don't owe you anything, I said. This conversation is being recorded. Jonathan spun toward the camera. You ruined my life, he said. All you had to do was help me. $68,000. That's it. That was never the amount. I said. It was the control. Patricia slammed her hand against the gate. Open it now. We need to talk this out like a family. There's an active police report, I said, and a temporary protective order has been filed. Her expression flickered, disbelief cracking through the rage. You wouldn't. I did, I said. Savannah lowered her phone for the first time. Mom, she said quietly. There are sirens. Blue lights flashed at the edge of the frame as a patrol car pulled up behind them. Then another. Jonathan froze. Patricia turned slowly, her confidence draining as the officers stepped out. I pressed the intercom one last time. This is your warning, I said. Do not come back. Patricia's mouth opened, words forming and falling apart all at once. Jonathan's shoulders sagged as an officer placed a hand on his arm. Savannah's camera went dark. I ended the feed and set the phone down on the counter. The house was silent again. Not the heavy, waiting silence of before, but something cleaner, safer. Outside, voices carried briefly, then faded. The sound of engines started. Tires rolled away. I stood there until the alert cleared itself from my screen. Then I locked the door and didn't look at the cameras again. The call came a week later, while I was packing a box I'd been meaning to empty for years. "Ms. Hale," the woman said gently. "My name is Caroline Weiss. I'm calling on behalf of Ruth Bennett's estate." I sat down on the floor, the box still open beside me. "Is my grandmother all right?" "She's resting," Caroline replied, "but she wanted you informed immediately. She has revised her will." I closed my eyes. "You don't need to explain," I said. "I don't want it." Caroline paused. She anticipated that. Her words were very clear. She said, "Give it to Audrey. She's the only one who didn't need it." The sentence landed quietly, without drama, and stayed. After we hung up, I drove to my grandmother's old house alone. I walked through rooms that had once felt crowded with expectations. I didn't argue with memories. I didn't relive scenes. I just stood there, breathing, letting the place be what it was instead of what it had demanded. A week later, the papers were signed. The house was sold. The money went somewhere else entirely. I sat across from a woman named Marisol in a small office downtown. She ran a nonprofit that helped adults leave abusive family situations when shelters wouldn't take them. "You're sure you don't want your name on it?" she asked. "I'm sure," I said. "I don't need credit. I need it to exist." She smiled then. "Not grateful. Just respectful. It will." That night, my phone buzzed with one last notification. The family group chat. Silent for days, still heavy with unsent words. I deleted it. If this story felt familiar, if it echoed something you've lived or watched someone endure, you're not alone. Sometimes the quietest choice is the bravest one, and sometimes walking away is the first real step forward. I stepped outside, the air cool against my skin, and listened to the absence where their voices used to be. Silence no longer meant abandonment, it meant freedom.